Welcome to the Yoga and the Bible Symposium for Your Health. We appreciate you taking the time to watch these powerful presentations. Our first speaker is Dr. Subodh Pandit. Dr. Subodh K. Pandit was born and brought up in India amidst the tremendous diversity of language, food, dress, culture, and religion of that populated country. He completed his medical studies at the prestigious Christian Medical College in Vellore, India, specializing in internal medicine. In the USA, he taught in the Department of Internal Medicine at the University of Oklahoma as an assistant professor. One of his passions has been research into metaphysical subjects and the relationship between belief systems and rational thinking based on science, philosophy, and logic. He has presented his seminar primarily on secular university campuses. He's been to 5 continents in the last 20 years and has spoken on such well-known university campuses such as Harvard, MIT, Duke, Georgia Tech, Michigan Tech, Texas A&M, University of Florida, Gainesville, etc. The most common response has been, "You have sure made me think." He's been on multiple international television programs and has been interviewed on multiple international radio stations. He's currently retired and lives in Maryland. His talk is entitled Yoga and Christianity.
Whenever topics from different sources are discussed, the first consideration in order to have real clarity is to know the words. Today we're going to look at 2 words, yoga and Christianity. If we pretend to know the meaning, but have only a foggy and vague idea, which most of us have, only a foggy and a vague idea what these words really mean, then like I said, we'll talk past each other. The fact is, words can be used with different meanings. I'm going to give you an illustration. See the word green on top? Yeah, it's one of the colors of the spectrum. If you look at the visible spectrum, there are 7, violet, indigo, blue, green, yellow, orange, red, and green is right in the middle. Not only it's in the middle, the scientists have looked at it very carefully, like they've looked at all the colors of the rainbow, and they have found that green has a wavelength of 495 to 570 nanometers. Now, don't worry about these big words, okay? Just get the idea. And it has a frequency of 526 to 605 trillion hertz. Hertz means times cycles per second. So that's the quality of green. Now we're going to look at the same word again, but this time it has nothing to do with the colors of the visible spectrum. This time it's the name of a person, Mr. Green. The word is the same. Spelling is the same. But it's so different. In fact, it's different features altogether and qualities. So should we call him green when he's not green in color? He doesn't vibrate at 1 trillion times a second and we don't know his wavelength. So should we call him green? We have to, because society demands that we do that. That's his name. And once we recognize that's his name, then we have to agree. But we must caution ourselves, for if we do not differentiate between the meaning of that same word, then we will have different meanings and our conversations will be quite confusing. But we do have a way in which we have found that if we use it in this way, it'll mean this. If you use it in that way, it'll mean that. And it is the context then. So in this case, look at the word green in these 2 sentences. Give me the green ball. Tell green to meet me tomorrow. If you look at those 2 sentences, you realize that each of them is using the same word in a different way. The first usage is of a color. The second usage is a name. The color has features and characteristics. The name doesn't have to have any of those characteristics. So the first usage, it's a color, specific features of wavelength and frequency, and we'll call that green proper because it has features. The second one is just a name, Mr. Green, and so we will call that green in name, not green in features, not green in actuality. And so when you look at that, let's look at these 2 words we are using today. yoga and Christianity. So when you apply that, we get the following use the word non-standard meaning. This is the phrases that we will use just now so that we can understand what we are saying. But here it is. A, yoga proper. In other words, yoga that has the features of yoga. B, yoga in name. Got the name, but does not have the features. Number C, Christianity proper. It has those features of Christianity. And D, Christianity only in name. It has a name, but not the features. We will use this in our description of yoga and Christianity today. What's yoga? Yoga proper. We're going to look at all four. First is yoga proper. Yoga comes from the Sanskrit word yuj. Yuj means bringing together, united. You shift from what is called a non-ideal situation in which there is a separation. As soon as you use the word separation, you know there are two things. Two things that are separate, now they have to be brought together. What are the two things? Number one, it's called the super soul, or the Brahman, or the all in all, the everything. It is depicted by the reverberations of the sound Om. That's the most sacred sound of yoga and Hinduism. Om. Everything. Impersonal. Just all in all. And the second entity is you and me. Individual. What we are saying is that in the non-ideal state in yoga and in Hinduism, we tend to use them as separate entities. The ideal state is to recognize that there is the unity of an individual soul within Brahman. That is the goal that we have in yoga. Yoga is a process to reach that realization. This word realization is actually a big part of the whole concept. You realize. It's called self-realization. You realize where you are, and we'll come to that in a moment. Yogi is the person who does yoga. He engages in the steps of yoga for a very specific reason. Remember, we're talking about features now. He must reach the realization of non-duality. That's another big word, meaning they're all one, unit. The female of yogi is yogini. The ordinary person like you and me, if you have not gone through it, actually you can't study it by reading books. You have to be initiated into it by a master. And he is called a Guru Dev. Guru is a teacher, Dev is God. So he has to be a divine teacher. Only a divine teacher can teach you yoga because he will tell you all the steps, because he has gone through all the steps. And when we look at the steps in just a moment, you will realize that not just anyone can be a teacher. He has to be a Guru Dev, divine teacher, because he knows the ultimate steps. What's the ultimate step? It's complete unity of the individual with Brahman. By the way, the word Brahma and Brahman are a little different. Brahma is a god. The triune god of the Hindu is Brahma, Vishnu and Shiva. But Brahman is everything. From Brahman, from a portion of Brahman, came creation and the gods as well. Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva came out from Brahman. So I know we don't know these words, not familiar with us, but just remember that we are learning along the way. So what is the meaning of mukti? It means salvation, moksha, liberation. What is the goal of yoga? To break the cycle, the regular cycle that individuals have of birth and then death, and then rebirth, and then death again, until finally you have enough of credit on your part, called karma, so that you can break the cycle. Once you break the cycle, then you have gone away. What is the cycle? It's called samsara, what we have here. And the key characteristic of samsara is, it's called dukkha, means grief sorrow. And there's not a person on earth who will not agree with that. Because that's the description. And obviously, something needs to be done. So the goal is that the soul must recognize the individual not as a separate unit, but one with the Brahman. And the goal is that when you do that, you will reach bliss, the ultimate. We'll get to that in just a moment. And this goal can be reached only, I emphasize the word only, through yoga. Yoga has 8 angas. Anga means limb or legs or facets or factors. I'm going to mention them. Again, they're all, many of you will be, it'll just totally new to you. Don't worry. We're just making a big picture so that we can decide what to do with yoga and Christianity. So I'm describing these things only as a description, not as a teaching point, because I'm not a Gurudev. I can only tell you some things about it. So here are the 8 angas. The names are there on the screen. Yama, Niyama. I'll tell you what they mean. Asanas, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dharana Yoga, Dhyana Yoga and Samadhi. These 8 together form the total picture of yoga. Now tell me honestly, where have you heard any of this in today's yoga classes? Can you see what we are trying to do? We are trying to describe yoga proper, not yoga in name. But all told, all 8 form the picture of yoga. Now, I'm aware that some might become uncomfortable in discussing details of yoga. But remember, being informed does not take away from anyone's faith. In fact, it's a vital process of clarifying one's own faith, giving it a sound intellectual base. In other words, you can claim to have now, having seen this, you can say, I've looked at both. So I'm no longer a blind believer. I can see, and I've made my decision after seeing. And the fact really is that only informed individuals can hold reasonable and meaningful conversations. Otherwise, like I said, you just talk past each other, which is the most common thing today. Not only with yoga and Christianity, but with a whole lot of other topics. We don't bother to actually understand. We should understand what the other person is saying before we enter into a dialogue. Otherwise, it will be only 2 monologues, not a dialogue. The 8 angas. Anga is limb. 8 limbs of yoga. Number 1, yama. Yama is restraint. In other words, you discipline yourself. As soon as you discipline yourself, you realize you got to cut off something. That's the meaning of discipline. Cut some things off. So what are you supposed to cut off? There are 5 yamas, but I'm going to give you just an example because I'm not teaching you yoga. I'm just giving you an example. For example, you cut off violence. It's called ahimsa. Without himsa is attack. Don't attack, not violence. And don't steal, asteya. So these are examples of yama. Yama is that which you cut off. Niyama is the opposite of yama. That which you grab, that which you accept, that which you hold. They are not forbidden. For example, purity, cleanliness, saucha. That's the word. Or contentment, santosha. Again, I'm giving you an example of niyama. Yama, restraint. Ni, without restraint. Now you can go ahead and do. The gate is open. That was the meaning of those 2 words. Asanas is, the root word is in Sanskrit, is to be seated or settled. That was the original idea of yoga, to be seated, settled, so that you can do your meditation. Specifically, you sit with your spine straight, your legs crossed, and your forearms on your knees, with your palm upwards, very specifically, so that you're in the perfect position to relax and do your meditation. Hatha Yoga is the later form in which you added now different positions. Not only positions, now different movements positions and movements other than the original yogic settled state is Hatha Yoga, which is a later addition into the whole picture. So what we have today really is part of Hatha Yoga, not the original yoga. There are three types of yoga. The meditative, the place where you concentrate. Cultural is not East and West culture. This word culture is actually culturing your body. In other words, the other word that they use is corrective. You correct the way your body functions. And number 3 is relaxation. 4 is pranayama. Prana means life. One of the most visible expressions of life is breathing. So prana actually means breath. And yama, like we said, is discipline. So what is pranayama? It is controlled breathing to go along with your asanas. By the way, just because we said the word asanas and we have a few positions and movements, what you are taught today are just about a few of them. There are actually 21 asanas, 21 positions. And when it comes to pranayama, that means controlled breathing, there are 8 types of breathing. For example, dirgha means three-part breathing. You do your abdomen and then the lower part of the chest and the upper part of the chest. So you do it that way. Shitali, shital is cold, cool breathing. Viloma, against the wave. You don't need to know these words. You don't need to even understand. Just recognize that it is detailed and it is vast. So the Gurudev will guide you through all these steps. 5 is pratyahara. This is very specific now. By the way, these steps and anga that we are talking about are actually chronological. You go step by step. You don't jump to the number 5. You have to go with yama first. Yama, niyama. Understand that. Then go to the asanas. Pratyahara is shifting the concentration. Now, the reason is because we are held by our sensory input, seeing, hearing, smelling, touching. Those are the things that hold our attention. But according to the teachings here, those are not real. They are not real, they're unreal. In fact, the word is illusion, and the word in Sanskrit is maya. All that you see, hear, touch, and feel is actually non-real. What will be real is what is actually an inner realization. That's real. So yoga is shifting, pratyahara is shifting from the understanding that what we are seeing and touching and hearing is non-real. We got to focus our minds on that which is real, that which is inward. So the shifting from outer things to inner things is pratyahara. Dharna yoga, dhar is the word to hold. So what is this idea? You hold it fast. Hold what? Get an idea and hold on to it. That's the idea here. Keep on holding on to it. It shouldn't be something that you hear or see primarily. It is something that reflects an inner being. And so what happens when you're learning this is that your mind will focus on that and then your mind will wander away. You've got to pull it back to that. And it will wander away again, pull it back. That is dharna yoga. Hold it, pull it back. It's a very active thing, but it's a process in which you learn how to do it so that your mind is concentrated on that one to the exclusion of everything else. I'll give you an example. The writings of the Hindus are also in the form of stories. One of the big ones is the epic called Mahabharata. That's a story of 2 sets of cousins who are going to war one against the other. And one of their uncles, who was uncle to both the sides, his name is Drona. He was a tremendous warrior and actually an archer. He knew how to swing that bow and arrow. And so he became a teacher of the warriors of both sides because he was uncle to both. So here's how we are going to describe now what do you mean by concentrate to the exclusion of everything else. He would call one of the pupils and say, all right, get your bow and arrow now. I'm going to put a colored little bird up in the tree, in the branches there, and you've got to shoot it down with just one shot. Just one. That's it. I'm not going to give any more than that. One arrow, and with that you've got to get the bow, the bird. But don't shoot until I tell you. So here's this pupil. What do you see? Says the teacher, Drona. I see a bird on a perch and some branches around there and some leaves, and it happened to be a mango tree. I also see a mango fruit a little to the side. No, don't shoot that. Concentrate some more. Okay, now what do you see? Now I see a bird on a perch with branches and leaves. Good, you knocked off the mango. Concentrate some more. Now what do you see? Now I see a bird on the perch and some branches. Leaves are gone. Good, concentrate some more. Now what do you see? Don't shoot yet. What do you see now? Now I see a bird on a perch. Branches gone? Gone. Don't shoot yet. Concentrate some more. Now what do you see? Now I see only the bird. Now shoot. You concentrate to the exclusion of everything else. That is the meaning of Dharana Yoga. You hold it so that there is everything else is gone. Dhyana Yoga, Dhyan is the idea of making it a mental picture. Now you have reached a stage in which you don't have to pull your mind back. You have practiced it enough. So now the thing that you're looking doesn't have to have your volitional idea of bringing your mind back to it. Now that is always there. In other words, what was there before to which your mind had to be pulled back, now it's a part of your mind. It's a part of the state of your mind. So it's a contemplative meditation. It's not an act, but a state of mind in which you enter and is not governed by time and space. Now here is where we are slipping off into the top one. There is no here or there. When you decide about that one thing and nothing else matters, only that, only the bird, then nothing else matters. And at that time, there is no here and there. There is no past and future. Everything is one place, present. And with that, you have slipped into what is called Samadhi, which is the 8th Anga, which is the final goal of yoga. What's the meaning of Samadhi? It means placed together. Actually, in ecstatic union. What you are doing is bringing a realization that everything is actually one. So the outer self that you had, in which you connected with all the other things, with seeing, hearing, tasting, that's all gone. So now you have merged with the ultimate Brahman, the all in all. Om, and you are one. And that is supposed to lead to the final stage, which is bliss. Total bliss. The oneness, the realization of the oneness is bliss. How do you get there? By your studied effort in going from one anga to the next and to the next and to the next. In other words, Samadhi is a reward. It's a reward for your studied effort in what you are doing. In other words, with these efforts, you have got merit now. You've done good work. Hey, credit for you. It's called karma. Credit. You get the credit. When you reach that karma, well, you will get to Samadhi. Got the picture? So the doctrine of karma, this is yoga proper. Got an idea? I hope you did. So a simple and a crude illustration of these last three. In Dharana Yoga, you concentrate on a source. Let's say it is light, like a little candle. You sit in front of it, quiet, and look at that candle and bring your mind, just keep on bringing it to that candle. That is Dharana Yoga. Dhyana yoga is when you afterwards don't have to keep bringing your mind to that candlelight. It is always there. And samadhi is when you realize that actually there's no difference between you and the light. You are both one. This is ultimate bliss. Everything is one. This is yoga proper. So what is yoga in name? Remember what we said, green can be proper and green is also just a name. Have you heard people saying, hey, where do you go to? Hey, I went for my 20-minute yoga class this morning. 20 minutes? 8 younger angas in 20 minutes? You can't even do one. The students don't choose to become a yogi. Ask them. They'll say, no, I'm still a teacher. I'm still a businessman. Are you a yogi? No. The instructor does not claim to be a Gurudev. Ask them. Are you a divine teacher? Oh, no. How can it be yoga? They don't teach you yama, the disciplines which you have to choose, the niyamas, that which you have to accept. They don't teach you. That's the first step, my friend. That is the first step of yoga. The yama and the niyama. How can you start? How can you reach the tape if you're still on the starting blocks of your race? Now you have to start and get there. Only part that is really taught today in yoga is the asanas, the positions, and the movements, and also the pranayama, which is the breathing. But remember, the breathing is not taught actually in the yogic breathing, which has 8 types of breathing, which you must actually bring together with your asanas. And hardly any of the teachers ever talk about dharana yoga, dhara, hold, dhyana yoga, samadhi. Has any of them really reached samadhi? You can be a yoga teacher, meaning a Gurudev, only when you yourself have reached samadhi. That is the criterion. But we are forced to call what we see here today as yoga. Why? Because a society has given it the name. Did we get that right? Name. Not the proper. They gave it the name, so I've got to call it yoga. It is yoga in name, not yoga proper. Christianity proper. The word Christianity comes from the word Christ. Here, the path to that ultimate state was paved by the efforts of only one person. Only one. The Christ. Believers don't get any gain, no personal merit at all in the entire transaction of true Christianity, because it is the incarnate God who actually did it. All the merits He brought in His own life, performed them, brought it out as a meritorious record, and He says, do you want it? Here it is, free of charge to you. That's a gift to whoever will accept it. The gift is free to humans, my friend, but it was not free at all by itself. Somebody had to pay the price. And it is here that we realize who pays the price, who does the actual karma. It is God. That's Christianity. Human toil and effort come after we receive the priceless gift of salvation free of cost. In other words, the Christian is completely overwhelmed by this expression of deep love and mercy and responds with devotion, committed to live like Jesus in complete selfless service. Why? Having already obtained the goal. He's already obtained his goal. Without karma. He's got it as a gift. So now whatever he does is not done so that he can get anything. It is a response of gratitude. So the Christian self-realization leads to humility, unworthiness, and includes the realization not that you and Brahman are one. It's a realization of how wonderful is the mercy of this God. leads to a very calm, restful, and confident hope in one's eternal destiny. So the Christian salvation has two distinct parts: that which God does and that which humans do. Only God's acts have merit, because they were done in absolute perfection and with pure motives, solidly placed on giving us unconditional love. So the motives are pure. The Christian human acts are a response to this, and these acts have no merit at all. And so when you do the Christian acts of a response to this God, you're not doing it to gain anything. You already got what you gained, what you wanted to struggle for. He gave it to you free. So now if you do anything for this God, it will be done with the same motive that He had when He did it for you. So now we live the true Christian life of actual service without any motive for yourself, reflecting the way Jesus did. So when Christians live selfless lives as a response to God's mercy and grace, they do so on the deep realization of the immense sacrifice of Jesus. Their entire basis of salvation rests on the self-sacrificing character of God, not the attainment of your character and your deeds. In other words, their trust is wholly on their Savior, and so their acts are done in joy, willingness, with pure motive. Sole purpose: honor this God, not gaining any credit for yourself. This is Christianity proper. What about Christianity in name? Joining a church, which is basically a social group, making friends, yeah, it's good. You agree to certain beliefs and doctrines, yes, sir, I believe. You go through a ritual of baptism, nothing wrong with ritual. You attend church whenever possible, and you give donations as a matter of duty. And we think, oh, how wonderful this person is. But this person does not realize what God really did for his salvation. There's no deep sense of humility and unworthiness, not overwhelmed by God's self-sacrificing love. And he's not sure where he'll get there because, hey, I got to do something to get there. So he starts working for it. So that's where the place of karma comes in a Christian's life, where he's supposed to not have karma, because all the karma that he requires is given to him as a free gift from this God. This is Christianity in name. So, wrapping it up. Yoga proper and Christianity proper. In yoga proper, the focus is on your actions. You choose to become a yogi or a yogini. You submit to the instructions of the Gurudev, the divine teacher. You perform each of the 8 legs of the yoga, the 8 angas, and you attain the goal of samadhi. Self is absorbed into the ultimate oneness of Brahman, and then you attain pure bliss, break the cycle of samsara. Christianity proper, your focus is not on you. The focus is on the character of your God. Choose Christ. That's what they do. He is the source of full salvation. And you are overwhelmed by His unconditional love for you. You were totally unworthy of that love. And you respond now with an active life lived solely to honor Him, not to gain any credit for yourself. And you place your entire trust of your eternal destiny on His character, not on yours. And you reach the goal of heaven where you're not merged into God. You are a distinct entity who now will devote his whole to God. In other words, his whole life is one of devotion from this entity devoted to that. You are not merged into one. Did you see the difference? Thank you. Some of you did see. There's a big difference, right? Big difference in all 4. There's a difference between yoga and Christianity. There's a difference between yoga in proper and yoga in name. There's also a difference between Christianity proper and Christianity in name. So let's put it all together. Christianity in name which is not true Christianity, will have no conflict with both yoga in name and yoga in proper. Yeah, you can do it. Christianity proper is incompatible with yoga proper, and vice versa, because the fundamentals are utterly irreconcilable. So use the correct words, use the correct concepts, and we can have an informed and reasonable conversation that respects both yoga and Christianity. I hope we've got some insight into these two words, and we can make an intelligent decision and honor the God that you worship. Thank you.